Hello, and welcome back to Capitol Hill Ocean Talk on oceanslive.org. I'm your host, Kate Thompson, with NOAA's Office of National Marine Sanctuaries, and we're coming to you live from the museum in Washington, D.C. for Capitol Hill Ocean Week 2014. Throughout the week, we're bringing you informal, behind-the-scenes conversations with some of the most influential ocean leaders here at CHOW. Joining me now to talk about the summer's exciting voyage of the restored 19th century whale ship, the Charles W. Morgan, are Steve White, President and CEO of the Mystic Seaport Museum, Dan Basta, Director of NOAA's Office of National Marine Sanctuaries, and Dr. James Delgado, Director of the National Marine Sanctuary's Maritime Heritage Program. Senator Richard Blumenthal of Connecticut also wanted to be here in the studio today, but he actually had a vote on the Hill and unfortunately will not be able to join us. But Steve, thanks so much for being with us, and Dan and Jim, thanks so much. So Steve, can you start off by telling us a little bit about the mission of the Mystic Seaport?
Sure, Kate, and thank you for having us today. We really appreciate it. Mystic Seaport was founded in 1929 as a maritime museum to inspire an enduring connection to America's maritime stories.
Well, it's a beautiful place, and I've been many times, and a wonderful place to check out the heritage of New England. And speaking of the heritage of New England, for our audience members who aren't familiar with it, what is a Charles W. Morgan, and what's happening this summer?
Well, Mystic Seaport, we're home for 523 vessels, and the jewel of that collection is the Charles W. Morgan. She's one of 4 National Historic Landmark vessels under our care at Mystic Seaport. And in 1841, she was built as one of the largest and strongest whaling ships, and of course, she's endured 37 voyages to all parts of the world, and the last remaining whale ship of American fleet of approximately 2,700.
So what's her history? I think the 20s she was brought to.
Well, she came to Mystic Seaport in 1941. She spent 80 years as an active whaler, from 1841 to 1921. She was in Round Hill, Massachusetts, until the hurricane of 1938 beat her up a little bit. And in 1941, a confluence of a ship that needed a home and a museum looking for a signature vessel brought the two institutions together. Well, the 38th voyage, how did that come about? Well, it's a great little story, I think. So her last time at sea was 1921. Since 1941 at the museum, she's has been a visitor attraction vessel tied to the dock. In 2008, we took her out of the water for a major restoration, the first time actually restoring her from the waterline to the keel. And because of that fact, we discovered in discussion that this would be a time, if ever, that we should try to take her back to sea. She'd be that strong and that seaworthy. And one cold winter weekend, a bunch of us discussing what's the next big idea for Mystic Seaport. It was, let's take the Morgan back to sea. Well, Senator Blumenthal was supposed to be here today, and I know he was really sorry he couldn't be. But he's been really supportive of the Morgan's 38th voyage. Why is he so passionate about it? He really has. Well, he's passionate about the state of Connecticut, of course, and Mystic Seaport being a place that he enjoys a great deal. To him, I think he saw a great connection to our maritime past and to American history. And in fact, in the summer of 2013, along with his colleague, Senator Murphy, introduced a bill that named the Charles W. Morgan the ambassador to the whales. Well, the Morgan was once used to hunt whales, as you just described. How will its current voyage use to be protecting whales? Well, in partnership with our friends here at NOAA, this is a voyage to raise awareness. This is our opportunity for America to see that things have changed, that the changing perceptions of whales from whale hunt to whale watch is something that's important for everyone to understand. Well, Dan, you are the director of the Office of National Marine Sanctuaries.
Yes, I am.
And the Stellwagen Bank National Marine Sanctuary is one of those wonderful, beautiful underwater treasures within our system. So how is Stellwagen going to be involved in the voyage of the Morgan this summer?
Well, thanks to Steve and all the great folks at Seaport, we're a full partner, actually, with the Seaport. And we will be involved at all the ports it visits. We will particularly be involved in Provincetown. And we will be on the Morgan when she is sailing Stellwagen Bank. The Morgan, here today they're talking about, well, we got to get people's attention. How do you get them to look at stuff? The Morgan will get more people to look at Massachusetts Bay and whaling in the 21 days or so of this endeavor than in 10 years. It'll be a major world event. It's the only thing of its kind ever. There'll be luminaries there. It'll have a grand day or so in Boston. Even the Boston Red Sox will honor this day. This is how you get people's attention. It's awareness on steroids. And we're there 100%, thanks to Steve and his folks.
So whaling to watching, both economic drivers. So can you tell me about the shift and what this industry meant for New England in the past, and then also now today with watching them? I'll
say a few words about it, but my colleague Jim can really speak about this because he's been writing about it lately. But we're in a time of dramatic change. But the world's always been changing. The Morgan has witnessed significant change in her time. Some of it climate change, actually, but also change in economy, in technology, and in the social fabric of our country and our planet. It is a wonderful vehicle to look backwards, to see deep, and to look forward. But I think Jim has some particularly good connections with energy and oil and whaling that he can opine on. Take it away, Jim.
Okay, Dan. When Morgan was built, it was just a few years before peak oil, and that's peak whale oil. Now, we know peak oil today in a very different context, but this extraction of energy from the sea, which had been happening for a very long time, in fact, I think whaling and taking animals from the sea to draw energy goes back to the very beginnings of our experience as humans. With Morgan, built at the height of this industry, built to represent the pinnacle of American shipbuilding and this type of floating factory, I think the ship coming into our own time, having been saved and treasured, is more than an icon. It's more than a symbol. What Morgan represents is a vehicle not only of the imagination, but a means by which we can draw, as Dan says, from the past and look to what's happening now and look to the future. Specifically, in that 80-year career, in those 37 voyages, what Morgan represented was more than the shipbuilders, more than the owners, more than the fact of whaling. She was a floating community representing a different group of people over time, a racially diverse crew going throughout the world, engaging in an industry, but responding to changes in the industry. So Morgan today can be a means by which we can look back and say, this is how they did it then, and these are the lessons we can draw from it. If we work together as a crew, if we accept all voices, if we are diverse, and if we keep an eye to the horizon and adapt to those changes, things are possible as human beings. And that, embodied in the timbers of Morgan as rebuilt and relaunched with her new focus, gives credence not only to the past, but to the message of now. And it enables us all to really reach to our better instincts.
Right. Well, whaling has connected the world through maritime heritage landscapes, and I know that in sanctuaries and in the monument within the sanctuaries, we're connected from New Bedford all the way up to the top of Curie Atoll, and that they did an archaeological expedition a few years back on the Two Brothers, a whaling ship from New Bedford. How can we learn by studying the trails that the whalers took in the context of the different cultures that were impacted by whaling? How can we learn from that?
Well, I think there's a couple ways we learn from it. One is basically understanding an industry, an extractive industry, and how it changed over time, and how, interestingly enough, all of these guys that went whaling suddenly shifted to a new industry around 1865. And that came about after the 1859 discovery of petroleum, the first wells being pumped. The guy who designed the USS Monitor actually patented the first underwater oil drilling rig in 1869. When you hear of the accounts of the early oil strikes, it's the whalemen from New Bedford and Nantucket and elsewhere who were out there. They evolved, they changed, they adopted. And the time will come when we will again do that. And it's that entrepreneurial spirit, it's that ability to look beyond the horizon that every mariner has, I think, that help inspire that. But I would say this as well. We as a country learned the ocean and embraced the ocean largely in the wake of the whalers. They were the first true American industry to go abroad. And they spanned that globe. They're the responsible party for us reaching out to Japan. They're the responsible party that took us into the Arctic. They're the responsible party who took us into the Pacific. And in this, I think there's another important lesson, which is, as a species, we have within our own capacity the chance not only to be shaped by our environment, but at times to shape our environment. And we need to be careful of that and learn from the past.
So, Dan.
Yes?
Shipping, we were just saying, industry and shipping and the connections of the world. In the Stellwagen Bank National Marine Sanctuary itself, some of the research that we have done, we have changed shipping lanes because of our research, because of the work that we do up there. Can you explain a little bit about that?
Actually, that's a terrific question because the work at Stellwagen Bank National Marine Sanctuary is arguably the leading edge of acoustic science, marine mammals, and the interactions of them with shipping. But we're learning so much more. Stellwagen Bank is a place that will soon be designated as a center of excellence for this kind of science. And sonification of that area will tell us things that we never knew about how whales behave, how codfish behave, how our ideas that there's no social structure in fish may be wrong, actually. We are going to be learning so much more about those kinds of things that are going to inform us about how we think about things. Now, the hard part about all of this is not keeping it in the back room of science, but bringing it alive, like this show, bringing it to people. When the Morgan is at Stellwagen and people are dying to know about it because it's the Morgan, we're going to be telling science stories. We're going to be trying to compare and contrast and tell stories of science and cutting-edge science, because we'll have an audience to do it. And the Morgan will be the vehicle by which that will be conveyed. So it's finding the ways in which you do this that is the real sort of trick of the trade, if you will.
And Dan, I have to thank you for putting a little bug in my ear a few years ago and saying, you know, Steve, what museums need to do is they need to project, not just protect. And I think together we've realized that there could be no better projection of maritime heritage than what we're doing with the Charles W. Morgan. So thank you for really inspiring me in that regard.
Well, I think the only reason why we're doing this is because I cut your tie in half that day.
And I still have it on my bookshelf.
I think that's why that works.
Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today on Capitol Hill Ocean Talk. I am really excited to go live from the Morgan sailing through the Stellwagen Bank National Marine Sanctuary in July. So, well, I think we'll all see you there on the decks of the Morgan.
Absolutely.
So, actually, I'm happy to say that we will be broadcasting live from Provincetown, Massachusetts on July 11th, 12th, and 13th during the Morgan's visit to the Stellwagen Bank National Marine Sanctuary. Be sure to tune in then for more great Oceans Live programming. So that's it for us here at Capitol Hill Ocean Talk today, but we will be back tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. with lots more great guests, fascinating discussions, and some special coverage of tonight's Ocean Awards Gala, which some of you may know as the Ocean Prom. Thank you to everyone who watched our show today and to the museum for helping make these broadcasts possible. See you all tomorrow.